beautiful fall colors of Simcoe County draw thousands of visitors every year. Each Thanksgiving weekend, it is also home to the Images Studio Tour, one of Ontario's finest and longest-running juried art events. For the diverse group of outstanding artists on the tour, this is an important opportunity to showcase their work in their own studios and introduce themselves to a new audience. Here are just some of the artists we followed as they prepared for this unique studio tour. Charles Pachter. Charles celebrates Canada's cultural heritage with wit and whimsy.
I got more or less talked into this by Jan Novak from Images Studio Tour. I had done it 1 year, in 2009 I think it was. It's a huge event up here. It's for 4 days, and it's an enormous pressure to be open from 10 till 5, 4 days in a row. First of all, there's going to be hundreds of people coming through. And the reason is, he said modestly, my career and my reputation was built long ago in Toronto, and I'm still Toronto-based. But like a lot of artists of my vintage, I'm 73 now, the city doesn't have the same appeal to us as having a quiet, nice, convenient place in the country. I have been very lucky in the last 10 years of my career to have created a series of images that have become practically branded images. The Queen, the Moose, the flags, the barns, and the streetcars are all Pachter images. And because of that, I have a nice fan base. There's going to be at least 300-400 people a day in here. They come from all over Simcoe County. To be perfectly blunt, I don't expect to sell my major works up here. I do that in the city where I can get 40 or 50,000 for a major canvas. But I can probably end up selling 50 to 60 prints in 4 days. You know, at $500 or $600 each is nothing to sneeze at. I grew up in the era of pop art. I went to teach at the University of Calgary in 1969, drove across Canada, saw 2 moose on my way, but it was in Calgary where I really started to think about the Canadian iconography that had been so invisible when we were growing up, because everything, even in the Canadian art magazines, was about the States. So I ended up making pop images of things that were indigenous to Canada. Well, among my best known works it was originally called Noblesse Oblige, but I had read somewhere that the Queen was coming to Niagara-on-the-Lake to open the Shaw Festival Theatre. And when I put her on the moose, it caused a scandal back then, because they revered the monarchy a lot more than they do today. The image became notorious literally overnight. It was in newspapers around the world with press lines saying, Canada in royal rage over Queen on Moose, monarchists threatened to slash canvases, artists warned to stay indoors. The whole thing was all hyped nonsense, but it turned me into Andy Warhol. I was 30. I got a gold embossed invitation in the mail in late 2014 that the Queen and Prince Philip were opening Canada House in London, which was being renovated. Sure enough, the Queen came in and she came right over to me. I was told, you're not supposed to speak to her until she speaks to you first. I said, sure, am I going to wait? So I said, Your Majesty, this is such an honor. 46 years ago, I painted you seated on a moose as the Queen of Canada. It caused a bit of a furor at the time, but it became my most famous picture, and thanks to you, I made a living all these years. And she said, how amusing. She was not offended. She thought it was cute. You know, she really was not offended. There was a big smile on her face. When I was looking for Canadian icons, and I'd come into Aurelia to get butter tarts, and I did this painting called State of the Tarts, and Mrs. Wilkie from the bakery came in, like she's still around in her 80s, and she says, my friend Marge told me I had to come and see the painting, eh? They're all named Marge up here. So she takes a look at it for $30,000, and she goes, 30,000? The bakery isn't worth that. So I said, well, why don't I do a print for you? We can hang it up in the bakery. She goes, well, what do you want in return for that, eh? I said, how about butter tarts for life? She thought for a minute. She said, well, start with a dozen.
I think he painted it in the 81, something like that. I'm not sure exactly. Everybody comes to see it. And the butter tarts as well, right?
Well, here we are in the Toronto studio. I'm in a messy old garage right in the heart of Chinatown in downtown Toronto, touching up the background where there are little blemish areas that have to be, I want to get a good flat background here. It was an image that I actually did a selfie of back in 1981. I just put the camera on a tripod with a delay and then went and lay down on the bed. Here I am 34 years later doing a painting of it. Self-portrait in bed. I have been compared to Warhol, to David Hockney, to Francis Bacon. I'm thrilled with all these comparisons, but art critics who know my work best say, in some ways my work is more intellectual than Warhol. The fact is I was brought up during the period of pop art, so I was obviously influenced by that. And for me, and this, I think I may have been born Japanese in another life, because when I got to Tokyo, and I went to the National Museum there and saw all these magnificent screens and tapestries, and the purity of the design was so magnificent that I was just speechless. I walked out of there with my head reeling, because in all my work, as you can see even in this painting, I've tried to reduce an idea to its simplest form. And reductionism and clarity is what my work is about. It's not about obfuscation and piles of stones on the floor like you see in a lot of the museums. I'm a communicator. And what I would hope is that long after I've left the planet, the work will stand up and viewers be able to contemplate the meaning of life just by looking at my paintings.
I like his diving board series because that's done at the Somerville Pool, which is right near where I live in Toronto. Mm-hmm. The moose, there's a moose on the diving board, so that kind of speaks to me. I think it's fun. I think the Queen on the Moose is fun. I mean, it's old. I like his streetcars. I like anything he does about Toronto or about my family.
Anything standing out, catching your eye?
Right, this one right here.
His sense of humor. And so,
I mean, he's not only a phenomenal craftsman, but he's got such a good sense of humor.
and so you're going to buy this today?
We bought it. We bought it. Goes up in our bedroom.
I've been taking photographs for 50 years, but I came across it. It was long before iPhones and everything else. It was a selfie that I did on a tripod in 1981. And I often wondered, what do I look like when I'm fast asleep, And I just got in the bed, and I always liked this old comforter, and so I painted it. And it's a really interesting abstract, I think. I'm just calling it Sleeper.
Nice. You know what it looks like to me?
What?
Like, I know you shouldn't say
Go ahead.
probably to an artist,
No.
but it looks like red lips with a lot of teeth.
How interesting.
I'm afraid
That
you're
is so,
being eaten.
no, but that is so Freudian. I love that interpretation. That's good. Teeth and lips, and there I am, yeah. I'm being eaten away by life. How about that? I'll tell you, it's been a zoo. I'm so surprised at the number of people that have come through. It's exhausting, but it's invigorating. We've had 200 to 300 people a day come through, and here we are Sunday. We've got one more day to go. In grade 9, Miss Hudgens gave me D- in art because she put a daffodil up in front of the class and she said, start work! We had to draw the daffodil. We had exactly 20 minutes, and then she said, pencils down, stop, work, and then you had to hold up your picture. And she said, what would you give that out of 10, dear? And I said, 9. She said, no, 2. Thank you, sit down. I said, 2. She said, 2 detentions. Wait, 50 years went by. I got an Order of Canada. Guess who phoned me?
She did.
It was Miss Hudgens. And you know what she said? I always knew you had it in you, dear. Only here in Aurelia.
Okay.
It's Aurelia prices. It's just like, okay. The little ones, unframed, are 200. Unframed. In Toronto, 600. But I'm in a good mood because I sold 3 paintings this weekend. Altogether, 75,000. So take what you like, get a deal. I didn't expect to sell. I sold 4 paintings, and I'm thrilled about that. The cross-section of visitors has been so eclectic. We have had people from Iran, from Moscow, from Powell River, BC, from Medicine Hat, Alberta, of course Toronto, Barrie, Midland, Collingwood, Innisfil, Gravenhurst, etc. But it's fascinating the numbers of people that have come through here that I wouldn't normally see in Toronto. Toronto is a different kind of world. But it really is heartening to be able to interconnect with all these people. It's been really a delight. A success, well, I guess I could say, he said somewhat modestly, but I come to this tour with a much longer background and reputation than many of the locals, but I'm thrilled, and I'm hoping that they got as many visitors as I did. This is the first time I've opened the new space to the public, and the Images Studio Tour people did a great job in PR and in signage and in exposing us to the public. And it's such an interesting cross-section of, you've got everything from cottagers in Innisfil and Barrie and Lake Simcoe and Lake Couchiching and Bass Lake. There are people coming from all over. It's a nice, chilly but sunny Thanksgiving Sunday, and it's bringing out the crowds. So I'm delighted.